Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Bog Panda. I almost messed it up that time. I am Dr. Mike at Official Pagan on everything.
Hi, everybody. This is Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram. And we're glad you joined us. Please consider liking, subscribing, leaving some comments, turning on notifications, taking a look at the fine Bog Panda merchandise. And that's enough.
All the instructions for today.
Instructions.
Well,
check.
Kelly, it's the holiday season. One of the inescapable things of that means Christmas music. And that is infecting the landscape earlier and earlier, it seems, every year now. So I guess first broad strokes, Kelly, are you a Christmas music guy?
I'm not in particular. I don't. No, I'm not. I just a kid. And then then this whole like Red Shoes song comes on and I'm like, just kill the kid. It's just shut up. I've never been inspired by Christmas music. I know, it's in the season, it's kind of nice to hear as you're walking through the store or something like that, but I don't relish the time of the year where we get hit with a lot of the classics. But I mean, I don't hate them, but I don't enjoy them, except Red Shoes, which I do kind of hate. So.
I kind of hate them. I kind of hate Christmas music, especially as a kid. I have family members who are just in love with the just grating classics like that Wonderful Christmas Time. The Paul McCartney song is, oh man,
it's a bad one.
There's a lot of painful things I would allow to be done to my body versus actively listening to that song. That is awful. But that's the way I feel about a lot of Christmas songs, especially
another reason though we're really glad Paul McCartney died.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine if he was around to see that.
Fake Paul McCartney likes it.
So I've always hated Christmas songs. There have been the occasional sort of like irreverent Christmas parody song that'll get me a little bit, but I never really stick around with those. Like they're funny the first couple times you hear them, but to me, there's no real longevity or reason to come back to that after a certain number of listens. And I feel that way a little bit about parody music in general. Like there has to just be some more substance to it. In more recent years, though, I have found artists that I like making holiday themed projects that aren't funny. Like they're not parody records, but they're also not mainstream Christmas records by any stretch of the imagination either. So I figured I'd share a couple of those with you and kind of get your feedback on that. The biggest one, or the most important one, I would say would be Midnight Syndicate, Ghostly Gathering. Are you familiar with Midnight Syndicate at all prior to this?
No. As a matter of fact, with the exception of one artist who we'll talk about at the end, who I'm very familiar with, the other three were somewhat blank slates to me. I believe I had at least heard of Midnight Syndicate, but really no familiarity otherwise.
Okay. So Midnight Syndicate are a dark ambient band that have been around for quite some time. Anybody who's watching this, if you don't know the Midnight Syndicate name, you have heard their music. They're one of the most licensed acts of all time. Their songs have been licensed for everything from like Disney stuff to horror movies to commercials. Their music is everywhere. That's really how they make their living. And for many years, it completely stopped. Early in their career, they had done live shows and things like that. And then once the licensing train kind of started, that all went away, and they just pumped out albums of good quality. I'm not saying, slapped together, but pumped out albums and licensed out songs. That was their thing. I was always a huge fan, being a dark ambient fan, and especially I think if you listen to the early stuff that I did with Pagan, it's clearly very influenced by Midnight Syndicate and their playing style. A while back, though, they decided to start playing live music again, and they did a residency at a theater near Cedar Point. And we drove out to see their first show in 16 years or 15 years or whatever it had been at that point. So we drove from Pennsylvania to Ohio. Not a short drive. If you're like me, though, and you can fall asleep immediately in a car, it seems a lot shorter. if you sleep through a big chunk of it, everyone else will be mad at you, but it'll seem very short to you.
But you'll be well rested. So
yeah, I felt great when we got there, and really amazing live show, super theatrical. Maybe the most over the top theatrical show I've ever seen, as far as the production and everything. Crazy over the top stuff. I'll send Kelly a link. They recently put out a live album and a couple of music videos to accompany that, and I'll send some links to Kelly so he can include that. They did get around to a holiday album. This was kind of controversial for their fans, not just because they have sort of a horror thing going on with them, but early in Midnight Syndicate's career, the band split in half, and the other half of the band started a competing band. And that band released a Christmas album early on, and the Christmas album was very successful. So some people believe that kept the core Midnight Syndicate band from releasing a Christmas album for as long as they did, to avoid, comparisons to their competitor band, I guess, if you want to call it that. So what did you think of this, sir? Especially going into it with limited knowledge of them.
So I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's interesting because so don't jump through the camera and punch me now. The Trans-Siberian Orchestra does like the Christmas thing, and it's more rather than coming from dark ambient roots, it's like, let's take kind of highly commercial pop, hair metal, a little bit of electric violin, jam it all in there and kind of create this bombastic rock / Halloween music, and then let's put like a gazillion watts of light just hitting people on a regular basis, and to do that
where it's uncomfortable to physically be there.
Yeah, people's skin color is changing as the exposure to the light continues to go in. So I am going to tell you exactly what I thought about this as soon as I pick up my notes that I dropped. So 1 second. This is going to take a little more than I thought. You may have heard earlier in the show me rattling around trying to fold these up in a way that I could read them, not have my eyes down, but I can't do that. So here we go. So not going to go kind of song by song, but so overall, I said I really did enjoy it. I thought it was really some pretty cool music. It's a stretch to call it a disappointment, but I figured Carol of the Bells is kind of like one of these tailor-made songs to say, okay, somebody's going to rip into this thing and really kind of amp it up and take it to 11 and do all that kind of stuff. And it was very enjoyable to listen to, but I just felt like I expected this one to be a home run. It just wasn't quite that for me. It was good, but Carol of the Bells just lends itself to doing.
No, and I agree with that. I do think it's one, because you're anticipating it to be something bigger, but to me, I do suspect that goes back to the former Midnight Syndicate members band that they started. Their version of Carol of the Bells charted in Billboard. So I feel like the core Midnight Syndicate band, when they eventually got around to doing it, didn't want to sound like that. So that was kind of as a longtime fan of the band, that was my takeaway from it. They were just trying to do something different that didn't sound like the other band.
Yeah. And we're going to include the track listings and easy kind of links to get out to each of these albums we're going to be talking about. But so we're just kind of moving through some of them, talking in general. My favorite, Night of the Krampus, was my favorite song on the entire album. And the second time I'm going to request that you don't leap through the camera and kill me. A little bit of Nightmare Before Christmas mojo going on with Night of the Krampus, but in a good way, because Danny Elfman's no slouch. I think
no, absolutely.
As a curator of music, he's no slouch. But I felt all topic matters different and all that. It was at least in that family, but with more of an edge. But just a super song, and I really, really did love it. Up on the Rooftop is the darkest version of Up on the Rooftop I've ever heard in my life. And so I don't know if that's good or bad, but I was truly struck by "This Has Never Felt This Dark to Me Before." A song that usually doesn't feel too dark. So, um, Little Helpers, another one that, again, we're back to this sort of "This Is Halloween," kind of Danny Elfman kind of feel to it, but super fun song. Really, really enjoyed it. "Sing Me Now of Christmas." So I don't have to worry about you jumping through the camera on this one, but it's another parallel. This one I'm like, yeah, this is Game of Thrones. This is in there. This is good Game of Thrones kind of. It's got that.
So that actually makes sense. So among their many licensed properties, Midnight Syndicate is the official music of Dungeons and Dragons.
There you go.
So that the gaming company has actually all of the music that's associated with Dungeons and Dragons is licensed from them, and they actually commissioned a whole original soundtrack at one point from them for it as well.
Now that makes perfect sense to
me. So in addition to all their horror stuff, they are the official music of Dungeons and Dragons. So,
which is very cool. Congratulations, guys. Well done. Winter Storm, second favorite song on this. Actually, I enjoyed really all of this quite a bit. The song Everywhere Christmas Tonight is a very kind of noble sounding song. The weird part was it almost sounded a little bit Broadway musical to me, a little bit, and for some reason I had it as a Broadway musical with the ending chorus being "We Hope You Die." which is
like many a Broadway musical,
many a Broadway musical and Christmas song. "We Hope You Must Die."
Very Annie.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah, I mean, it was dropped from the original soundtrack. But I dare you to listen to the song, and when you get kind of to the end of it, go, "Oh yeah, we hope you will die." It's there. It's totally there. It's in the notes. You'll hear it on there. But super cool. So I really did enjoy this. It is a kind of a sprawling thing. It's 16 songs long, but a real bunch of really good stuff. As well. So really appreciate you turning me on to it. And this is definitely something that could be playing in the background at any family gathering. Just don't sing along with "We Hope You Will Die."
Just think it in your head.
Just think it in your head and make eye contact with whoever's appropriate. So that's my thoughts on that.
All right, sir. Well, that brings us to our next one. So are you a Twin Peaks guy?
So I want to be original series. I hung in there for a while. When we did the reboot, I hung in for a while. I appreciate the art. I think it's cool. It's a very unique musical palette that they work with, which while it's not like my top favorite one ever, I just really respect the kind of structural integrity of it, that it just kind of, when you hear it, it's like, yeah, this is kind of Twin Peaks material from there. So for the show and the music, I'd like to like it more than I do. I haven't really ever kind of plowed through all of it because it's just a bit of a tough hoe for me. How about you?
Huge Twin Peaks fan. So when I found out that there was an album, well, originally this started as an EP and then was expanded to an album because of its popularity. So when I found out that there was an album of Twin Peaks inspired Christmas songs, I had to check this out. And of course, this is one of the ones I shared with you. So you were at least somewhat familiar with the Twin Peaks music. So you got what the theme was.
Absolutely.
There. What were your thoughts on this, sir?
So, and then did we mention Jherek Bischoff?
I didn't even say that. Jherek Bischoff.
Yes. On Chestnuts, Roasting on a Fire Walk with Me, which is so points to Jherek there right off the bat. That's, come up with that title, bonus points right off the bat. So White Christmas leads this album off, and my main note on it is that, yep, Twin Peaks. It was just, it took that. If you were going to recreate White Christmas as a Twin Peaks song, this is exactly what it would sound like. So I thought that was really good. This one I also enjoyed. I did enjoy the Midnight Syndicate stuff of all the stuff the most. But I did enjoy this album as well. So the John Lennon Merry Christmas, the War is Over um, seemed ultimately like the most logical pairing of a song to the Twin Peaks aesthetic. It worked really, really well together. I thought super enjoyable from there. Oh Holy Night, also another really good fit. The way they kind of did that as well, and then plus you get a little bit of a Jingle Bells bump at the end, which is pretty cool. So that was nice at all. The Christmas song, Christmas Don't Be Late, was my least favorite song on this album, but I think that's due to deep psychological scarring by the Chipmunks. Uh, so I'm never going to be able to listen to this song and be in any sort of position to enjoy anything. So
That makes sense.
They just drove it so far down into the ground. Sorry, Chipmunks. This
This is where we find out we have a huge chipmunk base. There's a
Yeah,
lot of crossover there, and we lose like half of our subscribers.
Half our subscribers are gone. Oh boy, I love that they're singing this version in particular, and you always get treated to it on the radio. And so my deep abiding hatred of that version of this song they couldn't overcome it. They give them a good college try, but they couldn't overcome it. And then Christmas Time Is Here, which is typically the comic cartoon, the Peanuts. That is this kind of melancholy song that plays during Christmas because Peanuts is melancholy and those types of things. I really didn't think that you could chase any more joy or happiness out of the world with this song than the original version, but they actually achieve it here. This one is actually deplete, and but I don't mean that in a bad way, but it was just they totally extinguished joy 100%. Where Charlie Brown had joy pinned down on the ground, bleeding out. These folks took it out. So congrats to them. So that's all I gotta say about that album.
Yeah, I think this one's fun. I like the Midnight Syndicate one the best. I do think this one's fun, but I think you probably get more out of it the more you're familiar with Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, and I think it read 100% to me on that, so there's really no question at all. It's just ultimately the thing it was morphing with sometimes carried baggage for me. So that happens.
And also Badalamenti, the guy who did the score for all the Twin Peaks stuff, also scored Christmas Vacation
under the name Lindsey Buckingham.
Nope. He did the score for Christmas Vacation.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, in fact, there's a really funny. Have you ever watched any of the CinemaSins videos?
I have, yes.
So there's one for Christmas Vacation when you watch it and they're doing the opening credits. He's like, let's pause here when it says the music behind. He's like, somebody in a boardroom somewhere was like, who do we get to score a Christmas movie? And they were like, hey, I just watched that Twin Peaks show. He'd be good for it.
That makes sense. It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense. Yeah.
So that brings us to our last of the longer form stuff we're going to talk about here. This one is an EP from Damian Masters. So are you a pregnant light guy?
Could you repeat that?
Are you a pregnant light guy?
I'm going to say no.
So there is a black metal band that I love called A Pregnant Light. I'm a huge fan of all of their music. It's very cacophonous and heavy, lots of screaming, but similar to like Burzum in the sense that there is sort of a melodic undertone under
Okay.
all of the noise on top of it, though. They're also extremely prolific. There's new Pregnant Light releases. It seems like an album a quarter at this point, with singles and things in between that. So if you are a fan of them, there's just tons and tons of stuff to get into. But their vocalist and primary member, Damian Master, who plays most of the music on their records, made this Christmas EP. And not under the Pregnant Light banner. I assume so that, you know, people didn't think they were getting a metal release out of this. And that's actually why I like this, because I think for fans of his normal music, you'd be expecting more of a parody type thing with screaming and you know, very loud tremolo pick guitars and things like that. And that's not at all what you get. It's a pretty straightforward Christmas release.
Yeah, I was anticipating as you kind of shared these out. So I wasn't anticipating, oh, here's a combination of Twin Peaks music with, you know, so I was not prepared for that. Not entirely Midnight Syndicate, not entirely shocked with the kind of path I went to, but I was like, so I'm gonna get a, you know, a gore version of something here. You know, I'm gonna get, and so I kind of figured Damien, okay, Damien Master, okay. So I kind of turned the volume down as I moved to this one and said, I'm about to be assaulted, I think a little bit in a good way, but it turns out no, and it is a much kind of calmer approach to things. Only 4 songs. O Come Emmanuel, which has lots of lyrics about being joyful and triumphant and things like that. Doesn't read joyful. I mean, it's the least joyful version, but I think about the OG versions of O Come Emmanuel, those aren't exactly toe tappers either. So it's not like the joy was bursting out in any version of this song, but I do believe Damien very successfully took it down a notch or two further. The joy meter went down a little further with his version of it from there. God rest ye merry gentlemen, you know, something I'm singing basically daily, just a toe tapper again. I really did like this version of it. I've never been like a huge fan of this song, but I really found his version and very enjoyable. So it's a very cool listen on that. The We Three Kings seemed like a really good fit for what he was going for here. It seemed to smooth out really well, and so I enjoyed that quite a bit as well. And then Silent Night showed up at the end, where and you'll have to help me define the style. So I don't believe the style is officially called ethereal machine-like in terms of vocals. I don't believe that's the official genre, but this one definitely, where the other ones are kind of more still a unique kind of point of view and approach to it, but not as heavily stylized in terms of augmentation and distortion as Silent Night. So I don't know what you call what's going on there, but I liked it. But it is that very ethereal machine-like mojo.
Yeah, and like I said, this, even though like Kelly said, the final track is very stylized, I think really what the shock value of this is that it is pretty straightforward. There's no, you know, heavy screaming metal anything on this. They're melancholic versions of the songs, but they're pretty straightforward versions. There's no shock value to it. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, he should have done Christmas Time Is Here. So you've got to have a despair off between
despair off. Yeah, there is a theme across these 3 releases. I like a certain type of Christmas music.
But that's all going to change now as we wrap this up.
So there's another just one-off song that I shared with you, sir, which of course is Alice Cooper's Christmas song. I know you like Alice.
Yes. Love Alice.
So what were your
Super
thoughts
awesome.
on this, sir?
So it's Alice. So what's not to love, right? It's good. He is working with, I believe, a couple people from Rob Zombie's crew, if I'm not mistaken, on this as well. So it's that harder edged guitar stuff kind of going on, particularly in the middle. So that was pretty cool. But I mean, it's pure Alice. He's spelling out Santa Claus because it's Claws, and not wanting to make you miss the pun on it. Alice spells it out for you at the very beginning. Say we're talking about Santa Claus here, just so you know. And just perfect Alice again, where he's like, he knows where you live. He knows what you're doing, and that kind of menacing Alice thing. But I smile and laugh every single time where in kind of the second set of lyrics, they talk about the boys and girls of Toyland will have a jubilee. They'll build a toy town all around the Christmas tree, which is immediately followed up with Alice by going, and burn it down. We'll burn it down. And then we'll burn it down. Just love that moment where it's because he's staying kind of true to the song, but then all of a sudden he just kind of blurts out, burning down the toy town, which I laughed at. I still laugh at every time. So I enjoyed it. So it's Alice. It's awesome as usual. You know, he's got the Keeping Halloween Alive 365, which is another fantastic holiday song. This is right up there. I'm surprised I hadn't heard this one before, but I'm all the better for it. And you will be too. And it should be on any Christmas list rotations you've got playing on Alexa at home. You need to put Santa Claus is Coming to Town on there, and burn those toy towns down. So what did you think of that song?
So I was a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of that album that's off of. It's a Christmas compilation album. Features different metal singers on there. There's particularly, you had mentioned God Rest You Merry Gentlemen. There's a Black Sabbath version of that on that compilation that's pretty strong. That was recorded during their reunion with Ronnie James Dio prior to his death. So that's a really good one on there. But there's a few really good songs on.
Yeah, and then of course there's the Hanson album where they do nothing but Christmas Time Is Here over and over again, which we're not going to talk about. Keep that off your list. But hey, we'd be interested in hearing if you have any kind of unique takes on Christmas music that might be cool for people to incorporate, filling the house full of music during this time, families visiting, etc. So these were great. Really appreciate you again. This is a great cross section. Like I was surprised that there wasn't a Gore-like option in this. Alice probably brings the closest thing to that, but it's the complete Alice vibe. Completely. And nice little menace as usual. So really fun stuff. So if you haven't heard any of this stuff, you really should check it out. And like I said, you need to kind of add to Santa Claus, CLAWS, to your playlist, because it's a must listen to during this holiday season.
Absolutely. Well, anything else to add, sir?
Not for the show, sir.
All right. Well, thanks for joining, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.